I'm going to tell you something today that goes against everything the modern world has taught you. The modern world says, share everything, open up, be transparent, tell people how you feel, tell people what you're going through, tell people your plans, your fears, your finances, your struggles, your dreams, your secrets. The world says vulnerability is strength and openness is courage. And the more you share, the closer you will be to the people around you. And there is some truth in that. Vulnerability with the right person at the right time can be healing. But what the world does not tell you is that sharing the wrong thing with the wrong person at the wrong time can destroy you. Not hurt you, destroy you. There are certain things in your life that should never leave your mouth. Not because they are shameful, not because you are hiding something, but because they are sacred. They are yours. And the moment you hand them to the wrong person, they become weapons. Weapons that will be used against you by people who smiled while you were talking. I learned this the hard way multiple times. Because I am a trusting person by nature, I was raised to be open and honest and to share freely with the people I loved. And that openness cost me more than I can calculate. Friendships, money, peace of mind, opportunities, relationships. All lost because I shared something with someone who did not deserve to hold it. And each time it happened, I was not betrayed by a stranger. I was betrayed by someone I trusted, someone I had chosen to let inside my life, and they took what I shared and they used it for their own benefit, or they spread it to others, or they held it over me like a blade. And I realized, slowly and painfully, that my grandmother had been trying to teach me this lesson my entire life. She used to say, "Your words are arrows. Once you release them, you cannot call them back." And the damage they do is not always to the target. Sometimes it is to the archer. She was right. Every time I shared something I should have kept, the arrow came back and hit me. Today, I want to tell you about 5 things you must never share. Not with friends, not with family, not with anyone. No matter how much they ask, no matter how close they are, no matter how much you trust them. These 5 things are yours, and they should stay yours until the day you leave this earth. The first thing you must never share is how much money you have. This is the rule that most people break first and regret most. The moment people know your finances, everything changes. If they find out you have more than they expected, they start calculating. They start thinking about what you could do for them. They start resenting you for having what they don't. They start expecting generosity and feeling entitled to your resources. And if they find out you have less than they expected, they lose respect. They pity you. They talk about you behind your back. They make assumptions about your decisions and your worth as a person based on a number in a bank account. Either way, you lose. There is no amount of money you can reveal that will leave your relationships unchanged. More money creates envy, less money creates pity, and both envy and pity are poisons that kill respect. I knew a man named Joseph who made the mistake of telling his family exactly how much he had saved for retirement. He was proud of it. He had worked hard for decades, and he wanted his children to know that he had been responsible, that he had planned well, that they did not need to worry about him. He thought it would bring them peace. Instead, it brought them greed. Within a year, every conversation with his children included a mention of money. One son wanted a loan for a business. Another son wanted help with a down payment on a house. His daughter suggested that since he had so much saved, maybe he could pay for the grandchildren's private school. And Joseph, who had shared the number out of pride, watched his family transform before his eyes. They did not see a father anymore. They saw a vault. And the saddest part was that Joseph could not take the information back. Once they knew the number, they could never unknow it. It sat in the room during every family dinner like an uninvited guest, and it changed the way every single person in that family treated him for the rest of his life. I also knew a woman named Betty who made the opposite mistake. She told her sister how little money she had. She told her in a moment of vulnerability, in a moment of fear. because the bills were piling up and she was scared, and she needed someone to talk to. And her sister listened, and her sister comforted her. And then her sister told her husband, and her husband told his brother. And within a month, the entire extended family knew that Betty was struggling, and the way they treated her changed overnight. Not with cruelty, with something almost worse: pity. They started speaking to her in a softer voice. They started inviting her to things and offering to pay before she could even reach for her wallet. They started making decisions about family events based on what Betty could afford. And Betty, who had only wanted a sympathetic ear for one difficult evening, had been permanently reclassified in her family's eyes from equal to charity case, from peer to project. And every act of kindness they showed her after that carried a slight tilt, a lean, a downward angle that reminded her every single time that they knew something about her that she could never take back. That is what happens when you share your financial situation. Whether you have too much or too little, the information changes the relationship permanently. Keep the number to yourself. Pay your bills in silence. Struggle in silence if you must, but never let someone else's knowledge of your finances become the lens through which they see you. Before I share the next teaching, one quick thing. Everything I have been pulling out of these old ways, the teachings about protecting yourself, about what to share and what to guard, about surviving your final years with your peace intact, I have written it all down. 20 teachings, 4 parts, in the order they were meant to be received. It is called The Native Way. You with your phone, or find the link in the comments. But stay right here, because the next 4 things on this list are the ones that people tell me they wish they had heard 20 years ago. The second thing you must never share is your next move. When you have a plan, when you are about to make a change, when you are building something or going somewhere or starting something new, keep your mouth shut. I cannot say this strongly enough. Do not announce your plans. Do not share your intentions. Do not tell people what you are about to do before you do it. Because the moment you share a plan, you invite interference. You invite opinions you didn't ask for. You invite doubt. You invite jealousy from people who are not going anywhere and don't want to see you go somewhere either. And worst of all, you invite sabotage. Not always intentional sabotage. Sometimes it's the subtle kind. The friend who says, "Are you sure about that?" The sibling who says, "That seems risky." The neighbor who says, "At your age, those words delivered casually over coffee can kill a dream before it takes its first breath." A plan that is shared too early is a plan that is vulnerable. It is a seedling pulled out of the ground to show people the roots, and a seedling with exposed roots dies. My grandmother taught me this when I was young. I had a plan for something, and I was excited about it, and I told everyone I knew, and she pulled me aside and said, "Why are you telling people what you are planting before it has grown? Let the thing grow in the dark. Let it build its roots in silence. And when it is strong enough to stand on its own, it will announce itself. You will not need to say a word. They will see it. But if you announce it now, while it is small and fragile, you are inviting every foot in the village to step on it." She was right. The plan I had announced was criticized and questioned and doubted by so many people that I eventually abandoned it. Not because it was a bad plan, because I had shared it before it was strong enough to survive other people's opinions. Keep your plans silent. Let them grow in the dark. Move in silence and let the results make the noise. The third thing you must never share is your family problems. Every family has problems, every single one. But the families that survive are the families that keep their problems inside the walls of the home. The moment you take a family problem outside, the moment you tell a friend about your daughter's marriage troubles, or your son's financial mistakes, or the fight you had with your spouse last night, you have done 2 things. You have given an outsider ammunition that can never be taken back, and you have betrayed the trust of the people closest to you. Because family problems shared outside the family do not stay where you put them. They travel. They mutate. They grow. You tell one friend that your son lost his job, and by the time that information reaches the fifth person, your son is a failure who can't keep a job and his children are suffering. That is what happens to private information in public hands. It transforms into something unrecognizable, and it damages people who never consented to having their struggles displayed. I had an aunt who could not keep family matters private. She shared everything with her friends, every argument, every struggle, every shameful moment that should have stayed inside the house. And her friends listened, and they sympathized, and they stored every piece of information like squirrels storing nuts for winter. And when my aunt had a falling out with one of those friends, everything came out. Every secret, every struggle, every private shame spread across the community like wildfire. And the damage to our family's reputation took years to repair. Years, because one person could not keep her mouth closed. My grandmother said to her, "You open the door and let the wolves in. And now you are surprised that the sheep are gone. Your family is your flock, and your silence is the fence that protects them. Do not take down the fence just because you want someone to talk to." There is another side to this that people do not consider. When you share your family's problems with outsiders, you poison those outsiders against your family forever. You may forgive your son for what he did. You may reconcile with your daughter after the argument. You may repair the damage and move on. But the friend you told will never move on, because they only heard your side. They only heard it when you were hurt and angry. They never saw the reconciliation. They never heard the apology. They never witnessed the repair. So in their mind, your son is still the person who wronged you. Your daughter is still the person who hurt you. And the next time they see your family at a gathering, they carry that judgment with them. And your family can feel it. They can feel the cold look, the stiff politeness, the invisible judgment from a person who knows something they were never supposed to know. You forgave, but the friend you told did not, because it was never their wound to heal. It was only their entertainment to consume. Keep family problems in the family, fight inside the walls, heal inside the walls, and let the outside world see only the strength. The fourth thing you must never share is your pain. Not all of it, not with everyone. I know this sounds harsh. I know the world tells you to express your feelings and share your struggles. And with certain people in certain moments, that is the right thing to do. But there is a difference between sharing your pain with someone who loves you and sharing your pain with someone who collects it. Some people do not listen to your pain because they care. They listen because they enjoy it. They enjoy knowing that you are suffering. They enjoy feeling that their life is better than yours. They enjoy having access to your weakness because weakness in someone else makes them feel strong. And you cannot always tell the difference between the person who listens out of love and the person who listens out of hunger. So be careful. Be very careful about who gets to see you at your lowest, because your lowest moment shared with the wrong person becomes gossip. It becomes entertainment. It becomes a story told at a dinner table you are not invited to by people who are laughing at the very thing that made you cry. My grandfather was a man who carried enormous pain. He lost 2 brothers. He lost a child. He survived things that would have broken most people. And he never spoke about his pain publicly. Never. Not because he was cold, not because he was holding it in, because he chose who received his pain the way a person chooses who receives their most valuable possessions. He gave it only to people who had earned it, people who had proven through years of loyalty and trust that they could be trusted to hold something fragile without dropping it. His pain was not a secret, it was a treasure, and treasures are not left on the sidewalk for anyone to pick up. They are locked in a chest, and the key is given only to those who deserve it. The fifth thing you must never share is your good deeds. When you do something kind for someone, do not tell anyone about it. Not your friends, not your family, not the world. Let the deed exist in silence between you and the person you helped. That is where its power lives. The moment you announce a good deed, you transform it from an act of kindness into an act of performance. You are no longer doing it because it was right. You are doing it because you want credit. You want people to see you as generous. You want applause. And the applause, once received, becomes the reward. And the original purity of the act is gone. My grandmother said that a good deed spoken about loses its medicine. It becomes noise instead of healing. The most powerful good deeds in the world are the ones that nobody knows about except the giver and the receiver. Those are the deeds that change the spiritual fabric of the world. The silent ones, the invisible ones, the ones that are done not for reputation, but for the simple belief that kindness is its own reason. There is something else about sharing good deeds that most people do not think about. When you tell people what you did for someone, you put the person you helped in an uncomfortable position. You make their need public. You take their private moment of vulnerability and turn it into your public moment of generosity. The person who needed help did not ask to become a character in your story. They did not consent to being the example of your kindness at the dinner table. And when they find out that you have been telling people how you help them, they do not feel grateful. They feel exposed. They feel that their weakness has been advertised. And the help you gave them, which was a beautiful private act, is now a source of shame for them because you could not keep it to yourself. You had to perform it for an audience, and the audience's applause came at the cost of their dignity. I knew an old man in our community who helped more people than anyone I have ever met. He gave money to families who were struggling. He drove people to appointments. He fixed things in people's homes without being asked. He fed people who were hungry, and nobody outside of those situations knew about it. He never mentioned it. He never brought it up. He never reminded anyone of what he had done for them. And when that man died, the funeral was overflowing. People came from everywhere, and story after story after story poured out. He helped me when I had nothing. He drove my mother to the hospital every week for a year. He paid my rent for 3 months and told me never to mention it. Nobody in that room had known the full picture of this man's generosity until he was gone because he had kept every deed silent. And the silence had made each deed more powerful. Each one was a secret between two people, a private act of love that had no audience and needed none. And the cumulative weight of all those silent deeds was so enormous that it filled an entire church. That is the power of a good deed kept quiet. It grows in the dark, just like a plan, just like a seed. The best things in life grow in silence. 5 things: your money, your next move, your family problems, your deepest pain, and your good deeds. 5 things that must never leave the vault of your own chest. Guard them, not out of fear, out of wisdom, because the world is full of people who will use your openness against you. Not all of them, but enough of them that you must be careful with what you give away. You have spent a lifetime being generous with your words, with your trust, with your information. And some of that generosity was returned with kindness, and some of it was returned with pain. In your final years, you do not have time for the pain. You have earned the right to be selective, to choose who gets what, to guard your inner world the way you would guard your home. You would not leave your front door open all night and hope that only good people walk in. So, do not leave your mouth open all day and hope that only good people hear what comes out. My grandmother's last teaching to me about silence was this. She said, "The strongest person in the room is not the one who speaks the most. It is the one who knows the most and says the least. Be that person. In your final years, be the one who knows everything and says almost nothing. And watch how the world changes around you when you stop giving it everything it asks for." Silence is not emptiness. Silence is power held back. And power held back is the most dangerous kind. I want to leave you with one last thought. You have lived long enough to have learned things that most people will never know. You have seen the inside of marriages and families and friendships. You know secrets that could destroy reputations. You know financial truths that would change how people see each other. You carry pain that would break a younger person to hear, and you have done good things that nobody will ever know about. All of that knowledge, all of that experience, all of that truth is sitting inside you, and every person you meet, whether they know it or not, is trying to get some of it out of you. Because people are drawn to depth. They can feel that you know things. They can sense that there is more behind your eyes than you are saying. And they will ask. They will push. They will use kindness. They will use guilt. They will use curiosity. They will use every tool available to get you to open the vault. Do not let them. You are the guardian of your own inner world. You are the gatekeeper. And in your final years, the most important skill you can develop is the ability to smile warmly, look someone in the eye, and say absolutely nothing. That smile, that warm, deliberate silence, is the most powerful statement a person can make. It says, I know, and I choose not to say, and there is nothing you can do about it. That is strength. That is wisdom. That is the kind of power that only comes from a lifetime of learning what to share and what to keep. And now you know. So keep what is yours. Guard what is sacred. And let the silence protect you the way it has protected the wise since the beginning of time. If what you heard today stayed with you, the book is there. The Native Way 20 Teachings, 100 pages, written the way I would speak to you if we were sitting together. With your phone or find the link in the comments. Read one chapter. Sit with it. Now, I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, which of these 5 things did you share with?